Greetings, it's Adam with the Rata Non Grata, and here's some news that hit this week. I'm a little bit late on this as I actually did not realize this was official. At first I thought it was just some homebrew thing that somebody had 3D printed, as I didn't get a press release in my email as I had been for a while there. I guess they stopped sending me stuff from Atari for some reason. But anyways, as it says right here, the Atari 400 Mini is now available for pre-order. So this joins the Atari 2600 Plus as a miniaturized version of one of Atari's classic pieces of hardware. Now, if you're not familiar with what the Atari 400 is, say you just know what the 2600 is, maybe the Jaguar, the 400 was the first of the Atari home computers, home PCs, that was released back in 1979, and there were many different models released over the years. The final one would have been the Atari 130XE, although there was a game console version released in 1987 of the Atari 8-bit hardware called the XEGS. And that's what this very 80s looking device is right here with its pastel colors. But most Atari hardware over the years has been based on the Atari 2600 and not the many other iterations of hardware that the company designed. So this is a nice little nod, especially if you're a fan of the games that were developed for the 8-bit series, as it's more commonly known. But they're just hearkening back to this more original design there. But let's read the features. The 400 Mini is a half-size version of the distinctively styled Atari 400. The reason it looks like it does is because at the time, what most people were familiar with were these devices called typewriters. If you're really young, you probably don't know what that is. You can look it up online, but I remember using them in the 80s once in a while. But this was trying to kind of aim as to being like looking like a futuristic typewriter, but that's part of the reason it looks like it does, but also because it came out of the 70s. It had the brown, pukey brown color. I don't know why they were obsessed with that color back then. Anyways, emulating the whole 8-bit Atari range from the 400 to the 130XE and the Atari 5200 home console. I've got a 5200 sitting up there on top of that CRT. Also included is the CX stick, a recreation of the classic Atari CX40 joystick, which they have remade multiple times over the years. It's alright. With an additional 7 seamlessly integrated function buttons and USB-A connectivity. Now, from these photos, it doesn't show those buttons at all. I would assume they would be on the front side there, I guess, instead of mucking up the top. But, here we go. Yeah, it looks like there's 2 there, not 7. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just a early rendering and they haven't finalized it yet. Love the packaging, though. This is exactly what the Atari 400 and 800 and 800 XL packaging looked like back in the day. But play one of the 25 built-in games, including Lee. Pretty sure that means Bruce Lee. I've never heard of a game just called Lee. So if there's a marketing person at Atari that has control of the website, you might want to correct that. Berserk, Millipede, Miner 2049er, Mule. That's an interesting one. I've never really played Mule before, but heard it lauded over the years many times. Kind of a very early strategy game that I think it was exclusive to the Atari 8-bit line for at least a while. And Star Raiders 2. Hopefully the original Star Raiders is on there. Frankly, it's much better than the sequel was. The sequel wasn't designed as the actual Star Raiders 2 sequel. It was originally made to be The Last Starfighter, and so there was a lot of mechanics about it that were different, but after that movie bombed, they just basically reskinned it and called it Star Raiders 2, but it plays much differently. than the original Star Age. It still has some cool elements to it, such as visiting planets and recharging at stars, but it's still a little bit different vibe. Anyways, save your progress at any point in one of the 4 save slots per game, or even pause and rewind gameplay to help you through the most difficult parts, a feature new to the 400 Mini, and play your own compatible games via a USB flash drive. And so, unlike the Atari 2600 Plus, you can't take your original Atari 400 game cartridges like Kix or Berserk and plug them in there, but you can get a lot more games by loading up an XEX file. I am curious if it would handle floppy disk files or not. But fortunately, the Atari community, particularly like on Atari Age, Atari Mania, have converted a lot of the floppy images over to cartridge images so that they work. But there's a ton of games that are available that if you put them onto a USB drive, you'll have access to plenty of gaming goodness out there. And so, let's see, this will be shipping in April 2024. It has HD output via HDMI and 5 USB ports. You can even connect a keyboard to it. So, I mean, there are plenty of applications since this was a computer that used a keyboard. So, that could be interesting. And it comes with the mini home computer, the CX stick joystick, HDMI cable, USB-C power cable, quick start manual, and fun. And so I don't see a list of all the games. Oh, actually available March 28th, 2024. Okay. That's fine. But let's see. Does this show... just showing an old ad there. I'm guessing this is just a trailer video. The 400 Mini. Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, it's kind of cut off a little bit there, but if we could pause it, then I could see all that. There's Mule. That's Bruce Lee, so yeah, it's definitely Bruce Lee. Cool little addition there. Miner 2049er, Star Raiders 2, Airball, Crystal Castles. There was one other one that just flew by too fast for my old eyes to recognize. And yeah, cool little... product, I would say. And the rewind feature could be useful. I mean, I don't play tons in emulation, and so I don't really use that much. Like on the Nintendo Switch, their online stuff does that, but still could be cool, I guess. It comes with 256 megs of RAM. It's been a long time since I've heard that. It's always been in gigabytes for the longest time. 128 megabytes of flash RAM. It uses the all-winner H3 microprocessor, which I know nothing about, but I assume that it can emulate everything here at 60 frames a second and run it just fine. And then your dimensions are 2 inches tall by 6 inches wide by 5.25 inches deep at 8.8 ounces. So have you played Atari today? What do you think about this one? Is this something that you would like to jump on and add to your collection as a way to better play Atari 8-bit games? I'm tempted by it, like I said. Been tempted by the 2600 Plus. It's interesting that they're going in this route. I've seen some complaining lamenting from the Atari VCS community that it looks like that Atari's kind of giving up on that, but I don't think that's a big surprise. Perhaps if Wade Rosen had been in charge when the Atari VCS had been proposed by the first guy, Fergal Mack, I think his name was, then it might have been released as was promised. But again, as I had mentioned on the Atari Age threads about that many times, was that just it takes millions and millions of dollars to properly support a game console, because you've got software updates and compatibility issues, especially where this was opened up as a PC. Although originally, when it was first announced as the Atari box, it was not promised as such. It was just supposed to be like a really cool flashback that would allow you to play all sorts of games from your classic Atari consoles digitally. But it just kind of morphed more into just being a low-powered PC. But without exclusive games and things like that, it was just, there was plenty of red flags there that it was not going to be this smashing success, or as some bizarrely claimed that it would be competing with the PS5 or something like that. And so, yeah, I'm sorry to say we told you so, but we kind of told you so. Like we said, there was lots of red flags saying that, there's some issues here. And it wasn't handled very well within the development process. But what the current Atari is doing, which I believe most of the people involved were not around when the VCS was being developed and announced. They're taking a different approach to hardware, and I like what they've done so far. I mean, yeah, would it be better to have just one platform that all this works with? Sure. I know that within the Atari community, those who are into the Atari ST would really like to see at least a nod their way. But I know part of the problem with the ST is that a lot of the software, Atari does not own it, and what Atari themselves released for the ST platform back in the day was mostly garbage. Like the Asteroids Deluxe port was absolute trash, and Star Raiders wasn't very good either. But still, looks like they're maybe heading in that direction. Maybe we will have an Atari ST Mini. I mean, I guess I would prefer an Atari Falcon Mini, because the Falcon was the most powerful of the 32-bit series of home computers that Atari did, and that's one that also just didn't get much love at all. It has very few games ever released for it. It has more tech demos than it has games. But perhaps if there was an Atari Falcon Mini that, as it was fully backwards compatible with the Atari ST, perhaps we get some more developments made for it that go beyond tech demos and are actual games. But anyways, what do you think about this? Do you want to get one, or would you prefer that Atari not do this sort of stuff? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll catch you on the next video.